Picture this. You're observing a routine traffic stop on a public sidewalk and pull out your phone to record it. Suddenly, an officer strides directly towards you, raises a hand, and barks an order to shut the camera off. Your heart starts pounding. When an armed authority figure issues a direct command, the most basic human instinct is to drop the phone and comply. But here is the reality of that interaction. Gathering information on government employees performing their public duties is protected by the First Amendment. The officer does not have the legal authority to order you to stop recording. By keeping the lens focused on the encounter, you are not breaking the law. You are actively performing a protected constitutional function by documenting the state's use of power. If you find yourself in this situation, step 1 is simple. Keep recording. If the encounter escalates, that raw video file is the only truly objective witness you have. Step 2 is to clearly state your purpose out loud. Tell the officer, I am exercising my First Amendment right to record, and I am not interfering. Step 3 is to comply with physical commands. If the officer tells you to step back to give them space, take the steps backward. Just keep the camera rolling while you do it. So, what happens if the officer ignores your rights, arrests you anyway, and seizes the phone? To fight back against the state after an unlawful arrest, a citizen relies on a specific legal weapon engineered for this exact scenario. Constitutional rights have boundaries. While you have the right to film, you cannot physically interfere with an active crime scene or obstruct an officer trying to do their job. This diagram illustrates a growing legal trend: statutory buffer zones. Several municipalities now legally require citizens to maintain a specific radius, often 8 to 25 feet, away from law enforcement during an active incident. This protection generally does not extend to private property. However, when an official is working in a public space, they have no legal expectation of privacy regarding audio or video recording. Strictly obeying these physical boundaries is crucial. Staying out of the officer's way is the prerequisite for holding them accountable in court later. The mechanism used to sue state and local officials for civil rights violations is a procedural vehicle known as 42 U.S. Code Section 1983. This document is a legal text analyzing Section 1983. It outlines exactly who can be sued, explicitly defining state and municipal officials, including police officers, as persons liable in federal court. To trigger this statute, the plaintiff has to prove one essential condition: that the offending official was acting under color of state law. Looking at the factors involved in this legal text, acting under color of state law means the officer was actively using the authority given to them by the government, like flashing a badge or wearing a uniform, even if they were abusing that power to intimidate you. Section 1983 takes an officer's abuse of authority and weaponizes it against them, using state power as the grounds for your federal lawsuit. Filing a lawsuit brings you face-to-face with the biggest hurdle in civil rights law: qualified immunity. This doctrine is designed to shield government officials from being sued for financial damages. This excerpt outlines a strict, mandatory two-step process to pierce that shield. Step 1. Did the officer actually violate a constitutional right? Step 2 is where cases usually fall apart, determining if that right was clearly established at the time of the violation. Qualified immunity will protect law enforcement from your lawsuit unless you prove the violated right was already heavily cemented by previous court rulings. How does a citizen prove that the right to record the police is established enough to defeat an immunity defense? We look to the federal circuit courts. Over 2 decades, cases of citizens recording police steadily worked through the appeals process. Circuit by circuit, federal judges have consistently ruled the First Amendment protects recording law enforcement in public spaces, making this right clearly established nationwide. Because these major precedents exist, an officer is legally prevented from walking into court and claiming they didn't know recording was a protected right. Once a judge recognizes that clearly established precedent, the shield is pierced. The officer is stripped of their qualified immunity. Without that shield, the officer is left exposed. They can now be held personally and financially liable for damages in a civil trial. Unlike criminal trials, where guilt is proven beyond a reasonable doubt, a civil court operates on a lower burden of proof. The plaintiff only needs to show liability by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning it is more likely than not that the violation occurred. Know your spatial boundaries. State your legal purpose out loud, and always keep the camera lens focused directly on the encounter. Keep in mind, this video is for educational purposes and does not constitute formal attorney-client advice. The Constitution works best when put into practice. Backed by recording devices and federal statutes, those words on paper become actionable power on the street.